Let's see. We're going to play with up here at data editor in with a Hydrasynth. So let's go like this and start up PD, and we're assuming the Hydrasynth is on channel 1, receiving and sending, and that parameters are set receiving and sending to NRPN. We'll go into MIDI settings here and make sure the Hydrasynth is seen on port 1. For this program it shouldn't really matter, but in other programs port 2 might be thought of by PD as MIDI channels 17 through 33. Port 3 will be 33 through 48, etc., etc. So let's be like this. Let's open up this guy. And the idea of this was the Hydrasynth is a great instrument, and the interface is really, really clever and wonderful. And so a lot of that made me think about interface design. And at the time I was learning more about pure data, and so learning about both together involved something like this, which is horrifyingly ugly, so strap in. I thought I would make an NRPN style editor. This doesn't save, so if you come across something and it works out and you want to save it, this won't do it. You have to do it on the machine, but you know, the machine's right there. So let's start off with oscillators, and let's do that. And so basically I have an HD TV right near my mixer, which should make all sorts of wonderful electric problems. But if I've got an HD monitor, why not use the whole thing? In the case of something like the wave scan, which we can turn into here. Let's go like this and choose a bunch of waves at random. In the case of the wave scan, the sort of amount of fineness in a big slider control you can kind of see in a way that I don't think knobs work so well for. But that's not to say that you should do this, because this is not very pretty. Let's see, there's that, and you could turn on oscillator 2, and oscillator 3 is down there. So some of the amp function is already here, right? There's the ring mod, and there's the noise. And so I got from there to mutant 1 and mutant 2, which can be on screen together. Mutant 3 and 4, same thing. Here's the mixer if you really want to use the mixer as opposed to the oscillators. The filters, you can fit both on the screen and an envelope if you want. So we've got the filters going on here. Let's bring us a little more. And so on. The LFOs are off on their own section, but you know, really I think the amp could fit another LFO in it. It's just that the symmetry of not having one for the filter kind of annoyed me. So there are more LFOs over here. You can see 3 on the screen at once. Oh, let's do something, and oh, more envelopes here. Which I didn't color and which I didn't really. 3 envelopes is kind of a little too much for the space and the idea I've designed this for, right? But let's see if we can get something going here. Let's go to here and get an oscillator or an LFO into oscillator 1 pitch. That's LFO 1, right? So, come on, latch. I think for the matrix behavior, I really wanted to get these guys together in one slider. There's not really a reason on a screen to make more than one slider for selection, although over here it's kind of clumsy because it requires some tight movement to get that and all the CCs in, right? And anyway, you have to kind of jiggle the handle a little bit. You have to go like this and then choose oscillator 1 if you want it to work out right. And who knows what other kinds of bugs are in this program. I'm not a genius. Anyway, so I got to the matrix and I didn't get to effects, macros, ribbon, voice, or arpeggiator. So you have to live with that. Let's go back here and choose a single waveform. Choose the standard one. And let's look at why this is doing what it's doing. For oh, look, you can see I've got some sort of error somewhere. I think that's probably in that LFO, or probably in the matrix assignment for the LFO. Anyway, here's the PD oscillator 1 guts, and over here is all the control for the single wave. You can see that this is the slider variable value, and it gets a little chunk of text to label the wave with. The little chunks of text are over here. But the actual NRPN number is 99639825.6. $1 is a variable. 38, $2 is a variable. 99986 and 38 are sort of prefixes. They say, the first two say, let's identify this one. And the second two say, here are the values. And so we needed to find out what those values actually were. And that happens in PD diagnosis over there. If we click it, let's clear this and go like this. Oh. And we'll turn the wave knob on the Hydrasynth. And you can see a whole pile of numbers just zooms out of there. Let's make them look like a readable list. Here's what's going on when I turn the wave knob. I get 99, 63, 98, 25, 6, 0, 38, 4. So this is waves 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, etc. So when you turn some things, you're going to get a whole lot of NRPN action. For instance, let me turn on an LFO BPN knob. And you can see that a bunch of different things change when the knob changes. And that, if you're trying to do this kind of thing, will make you feel crazy, tracking down what exactly is going on and what is not, so just be aware. But in the case of something like a one knob range, most of the time you're going to get a single value. That is, again, for a one knob range of like a filter sweep or something, you're going to get a single value. Like this is the cutoff range for a filter. We'll do that again just for fun. And go over here and figure this out. Anyway, so this is like the filter range. Anyway, that's how you figure out how the NRPNs come in. Let's show how we route them. So things come in here, and so there's a prefix number of 99. So the number after 99 gets routed to this output, and it goes here. Number after 98 gets routed here, and it goes here. Number after 6 goes to the third slot. Number after 38 goes to the fourth slot. And when the fourth slot is full, we send a bang to the first slot, and out come 4 numbers, which are, let's see, for the oscillator wave number, it's 63025. Because we're multiplying the 63 by 1,000 and just adding 25 to it, and that way we have a number that we can use like this. This is a route object and routes things that are prefixed. Where there's a first number, the second number gets routed. So we've made a first number, which is kind of the identifier for the wave control, and the value here is 25, or not, the value here is 25, but let's turn it a little more so it isn't different. This is the actual value of what's going on here. So we get up to, it's from 0 to 218, which is 219 waves. So we wind up with 2 numbers. This first number, 63025, and then 170 for the value, and with that we route. Here's 63025, and this means that in the order it's second number, so this isn't all that elegant. This is the first output for 64,007. This is the second output for 63025, and it just goes here. It has a +2 because it can't do silence or off like the waves in the wave scan, which I think is kind of a pity, but that's the way it goes. Things you have to watch out for are things like this, where programmers understandably felt like maybe using 63,004 as a toggle for the BPM is maybe wasting 16,000 more values. And so there's an LFO wave selector here, there's an LFO trigger, there's an LFO smoother, there's LFO1 steps, there's LFO1 delay and fade-ins, and I think some of these are dependent on whether the BPM is on or dependent on whether the BPM is off. So there was a lot to figure out there. I can't say as a programmer dealing with a whole ton of numbers I'd want to give up the space in one NRPN, but as somebody figuring it out later, it's kind of hard. Nevertheless, it's a puzzle, and during the pandemic it beat knitting, at least to my mind. So that's essentially what's going on here. These are the inputs, which I've gotten up to matrix. 4. And the outputs, I've gotten up to, obviously, the matrix again. This is them over here. This is what it looks like. This is the cleaned up version, much as you can believe it, according to how I do my thing, which is not necessarily the most brilliant. And the actual output of everything, the main MIDI out, is just this. Here's the MIDI message that gets sent when you change the single wave, 99639825 variable 38 variable, goes out like this. And it gets sent from this guy and received by this guy. 176 means do this on MIDI channel 1. And the Hydrasynth quite kindly accepts this string of 8 numbers without needing more MIDI channels, because usually they come out as triplets, I think. Like there's a MIDI channel, and then you get 2 more numbers for whatever else is going on. But if you send 8 numbers at once really fast, it handles it. I'm not sure why, but it does. So anyway, that's what this thing does. If you want to take it and change it, I'll put a link below. Maybe it will be of some use if you want to figure out what an NRPN is, because all you would have to look at would be this guy when you're figuring stuff out. But that's a lot of numbers to look at. It's not especially nice. That's it. So enjoy. I hope everything goes well for you and this crazy machine.